I caught my wife cheating. Here's what happened next. I never thought this would be my life. Sitting here at 35, with a whiskey glass trembling in my hand, I'm questioning everything. My name is Derek Michaels, an architect, a pretty decent one, if I'm being honest. I built homes, skyscrapers, and even a few bridges, but now I can't even piece my own life together. It all crumbled when I found out about them. I've been married to Jessica for 8 years. She's 32, a marketing executive, and the life of every room she walks into. People love her. Her colleagues adore her, her friends worship her, and I thought I knew her. Turns out, I didn't. She's not just the charming, successful woman I fell in love with. She's a liar. It was 2 months ago. I was late getting back from a client meeting and ended up skipping lunch. Jessica was working late, again, which wasn't unusual, at least not for the past 6 months. Her business trips had become more frequent, her nights out with the girls the regular thing. And honestly, I felt a bit stupid not catching on sooner, but I trusted her. We've always had an open relationship, communicatively, not literally, so I had no reason to doubt her. Until that day. I was starving and looking forward to a meal with my wife when my phone buzzed. It was from Chris, my best friend since high school, someone I trusted with my life. "Dude, is this Jessica at the Pearl Hotel?" There it was, a message I never saw coming. The Pearl Hotel was across town, nowhere near her office, nowhere near where she should have been. And attached to the message was a photo. In it, Jessica was wrapped around some guy, leaning in for a kiss, completely oblivious to the world around them. I felt like I'd been shot. That guy was Mark Stevenson, 36, fitness trainer, all biceps and pearly white teeth. He was our fitness trainer, the guy who came to our house twice a week to help us both stay in shape. My stomach turned. In that moment, everything clicked. All those late-night workouts, those girls' trips that conveniently aligned with his travel schedule, the whispers between them. I'd been blind. I rushed to my laptop, shaking as I logged into our home security camera app. I never thought I'd have to spy on my own wife. There it was, clear as day footage from 3 weeks ago, when I was out of town on a work trip. Jessica letting Mark in through the front door like he was a guest of honor. He wasn't there to work her gluts, he was working something else entirely. The screen showed her leading him to our bedroom, and the betrayal was too much. I slammed the laptop shut, breathing hard, my knuckles white from gripping the desk. How could she? How could they? The confrontation that should have happened. I wanted to drive to that hotel right then, storm up to their room, and tear him apart. But I didn't. I didn't have it in me. I spent that night drowning in a bottle of Jack Daniels, re-watching the video over and over like some kind of masochist. I felt a mixture of rage, sadness, and a sense of helplessness that I couldn't shake. It was like watching my life fall apart from the outside, like it was happening to someone else. Days turned into weeks, and I couldn't focus on anything. At work, I'd stare blankly at the blueprints in front of me, unable to think straight. I started missing deadlines, making stupid mistakes. My boss pulled me into his office, but I couldn't even explain what was going on. How do you tell someone, "Sorry, I'm late with the project because my wife is screwing the personal trainer"? So I stayed quiet. I swallowed my anger, and I drank whiskey, vodka, beer, anything that would numb the pain. Chris knew something was off, but I brushed him off every time he tried to talk to me. I didn't need pity. I needed revenge. The drama begins. But then, 2 weeks ago, Jessica threw a wrench in my downward spiral. She came home with that smile, the smile she used when she wanted something. We were having dinner, and I was barely picking at my food when she said it. I'd been thinking, maybe we should start a family. I choked on my steak, almost spitting it across the table. A family? Now? I looked at her, trying to keep my composure, while my mind screamed, "Are you kidding me?" I had to play it cool. A family? I asked, raising an eyebrow, wondering how she could even say those words after what she'd been doing behind my back. "That's a big step, Jess." She smiled, all innocence. "I know, but I think it's time. We've been together for so long. I feel like something's missing." Missing? Oh, I knew what was missing: honesty, loyalty, any shred of decency. "Yeah, maybe," I said, my voice shaking as I tried to keep from snapping. The rest of that night, I stayed quiet, barely holding it together. She was planning a family with me while screwing Mark on the side. The audacity of it all. I thought I had seen the worst, but then came the final nail in the coffin: the invitation. Jessica and I were invited to a charity gala hosted by her company the following weekend. She was thrilled about it, showing me the invitation like it was some prestigious honor. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be anywhere near her, but then an idea hit me. A dark, twisted idea. If she wanted to play this game, fine. I'd give her the show of her life. I'd expose her and Mark right in front of everyone. And that's when I decided, this wasn't going to be quiet. It was going to be loud, public. I wanted everyone to know what kind of person Jessica really was. The descent. I started making a plan. I'd confront them both at the gala, corner them when they least expected it, with all eyes on them. I wanted to see the look on her face when her perfect little world fell apart. And Mark, well, he wasn't going to walk away unscathed either. But as the days ticked by, my mind spiraled deeper into the darkness. I wasn't just angry anymore, I was losing control. The drinking got worse. I stopped going to the gym. I started missing work altogether. I didn't care. My focus was on that one moment, exposing them in front of their fancy colleagues and so-called friends. I'd catch them in their own game, and when I did, everyone would know. But there was one thing I didn't expect, a twist that would change everything. I'd planned every detail. I was ready. The night of the gala was closing in, and I'd spent hours imagining how it would unfold, the humiliation, the tears, the panic in their eyes as they realized they'd been caught. The alcohol dulled my fear, made me feel invincible. But fate had other plans. The day before the gala, I got a call. It was from Chris, my best friend. His voice was shaky, tense, like he was struggling to keep something from spilling out. "Derek, you need to come over. It's about Jessica. There's something you need to know, man. It's big." My stomach clenched. I thought I already knew everything. What could possibly be worse than catching your wife in bed with another man? Reluctantly, I drove over to Chris's place. His apartment had always been a kind of sanctuary for me, full of old memories, video games, and cold beers in the fridge. But that day, it felt like a crime scene. The tension in the air was suffocating. He greeted me at the door, pale and nervous. We sat in the living room, and he wasted no time. "I've been keeping something from you. I didn't know how to tell you, but it's gone too far now. You deserve to know." My heart pounded in my chest. "What the hell are you talking about?" Chris ran his hands through his hair, avoiding eye contact. "That night, the photo I sent you, the one of Jessica and Mark, I didn't just stumble on it, Derek." I stared at him, confused. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath, and that's when it hit me. Chris knew something the whole time. His next word shattered my reality. I was there. I was at the hotel. Derek, I was the one who set it all up. For a second, my brain couldn't process what he was saying. I sat there, blinking at him, trying to piece together what the hell he was talking about. "Chris, my best friend?" I leaned forward, fists clenching. "What are you saying right now?" He stood up, pacing the room like a trapped animal. I've been seeing Jessica. She was never with Mark. He's just a cover. She didn't want you to find out about me, so we used him as a decoy. I never meant for it to go this far, man, I swear. But once I took that photo and sent it to you, You what? You what? My voice exploded out of me before I could stop it. My whole body felt like it was on fire. Rage pulsed through my veins, making me feel like I could tear him apart with my bare hands. "You were the one sleeping with my wife. You planned this." He stopped pacing and turned to face me, his eyes wide with panic. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this, Derek. She didn't want to hurt you, and neither did I. It just happened. But you've got to understand, Jessica wanted out, but she was scared to tell you. She thought if you thought it was someone else, you'd handle it better." "Handle it better?" I hissed, rising from the couch, my fists balled so tight I could feel my nails digging into my palms. "You thought I'd handle this better if I thought it was someone else? My wife and my best friend lying to my face 4 months. I felt like I was going to be sick. My vision blurred as I tried to process what Chris was saying. It wasn't Mark. It was never Mark. It was Chris all along. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. The man I trusted more than anyone in the world had not only betrayed me but used Mark as a scapegoat to cover his tracks. Every workout session, every hangout, every beer we shared, it had all been a lie. "I trusted you. I let you into my life, my home. I can't believe this." I was shaking, not just with anger but with disbelief. It felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down at the wreckage of my entire life. Chris tried to step toward me, his hands raised in some pathetic attempt at a peace offering. "Derek, please, listen. It got out of hand. She was going to tell you. We both were. We just didn't know how." "Tell me what, huh? That you've been screwing my wife behind my back 4 months? That every time I looked at either of you, you were both laughing at me? Is that what you were going to tell me?" He dropped his hands, realizing there was no fixing this. "I'm sorry, man. I never wanted to hurt you." "Too late for that," I snarled, my voice low and venomous. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned and stormed out of his apartment, slamming the door behind me so hard I thought the walls might collapse. My mind raced as I drove home, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight I could feel my knuckles burning. The broken reality. All this time, I had been planning to expose Jessica and Mark, but it was never about Mark. I had focused all my rage on the wrong person. The real villain in my story was sitting across from me at the bar every weekend, pretending to be my best friend. I drove aimlessly for hours, my mind unraveling as I replayed every conversation, every moment that Chris and Jessica had looked me in the eye and lied to my face. The twisted betrayal cut deeper than I thought was possible. When I finally pulled up to my driveway, I just sat in the car, staring at the house where my entire life had fallen apart. What now? Exposing them at the gala didn't seem like enough anymore. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about total destruction. I wasn't just going to ruin their night. I was going to burn their entire world to the ground. The adrenaline coursing through my veins was both exhilarating and terrifying. I couldn't believe how quickly everything had unraveled. I felt like a puppet with my strings cut, left to flail in the chaos of betrayal. I had a plan now, a twisted vision of revenge that would show both Jessica and Chris the consequences of their actions. I was done being the victim. The master plan. I spent the next few days meticulously crafting my scheme. I had an arsenal of secrets and a burning desire for retribution. The gala was just a few nights away, and I intended to use it as my stage, a venue filled with our mutual friends, colleagues, and acquaintances. I would expose Jessica and Chris in front of everyone, turning their beloved event into a public spectacle they would never forget. I started by gathering evidence. My first stop was Chris's apartment. After our confrontation, I realized he had left his phone behind in the chaos of our argument. The thought of sifting through his private life felt disgusting, but I needed anything that could serve as ammunition. When I arrived, I felt a mix of anger and fear. I pushed the door open, and there it was, his phone, sitting on the coffee table, glowing with the notifications I was sure were full of secrets. I had to be quick. I picked it up, scanning the screen for anything revealing. The messages flooded in, flirtatious texts, intimate conversations, pictures I couldn't bear to look at. But one thread stood out, a conversation between Chris and Jessica planning our attendance at the gala. My heart raced as I read through their exchanges, the way they plotted their lies, the casual mentions of our little secret. There was also a thread with a friend, where Chris bragged about how he had managed to keep me out of the loop. Derek suspects nothing. He's too busy with work to pay attention, one message read. I felt sick. Each text was a dagger, but it was the last message that solidified my plan. Jessica had texted Chris, "Derek is so naive. This plan is foolproof." Gathering allies. Now, I needed allies. Revenge is best served cold, but it helps to have a few friends to spread the chaos. I reached out to Ryan, an old college buddy who was always down for a good time and had a knack for theatrics. He was one of the few people I could trust, and I knew he'd have my back. When I told him my plan, his eyes lit up with excitement. "Man, this is going to be epic. We can turn this gala into a blockbuster event." Imagine the looks on their faces. We plotted together, sketching out every detail. Ryan was a natural at creating drama, and he suggested we bring a few more friends into the fold, people who could stir the pot and make the exposure as explosive as possible. Our group grew, each friend eager to join the spectacle. I found myself surrounded by laughter and camaraderie, but the darkness in my heart remained. This was no longer just about revenge, it was about my own transformation. I was ready to embrace the chaos. Setting the stage. As the gala approached, I carefully orchestrated every detail. I needed a diversion, something that would draw attention away from me and put the spotlight on Jessica and Chris. I knew Jessica loved the spotlight, she thrived in social situations. I would exploit that. I reached out to a few close friends who worked in event planning and ensured they understood that I wanted to make a scene. I arranged for a surprise guest, a performer who would cause enough of a stir that everyone would turn to see what was happening. While the attention was diverted, I would make my move. The plan was set. I felt a mix of dread and exhilaration as I realized I was going to turn their world upside down in just a few nights. I imagined Jessica and Chris's faces when the truth exploded in front of their friends, family, and colleagues. The countdown begins. As the day of the gala arrived, I suited up in my best tuxedo, a facade of confidence hiding the storm of emotions inside me. My phone buzzed with messages from Ryan and the rest of the crew, all hyped and ready for the big night. When I arrived at the venue, my heart raced as I took in the elegant decorations and the buzz of laughter filling the air. The scent of expensive perfumes and fine dining enveloped me. My mind sharpened. This was it. I could already see Jessica mingling with friends, a radiant smile plastered on her face, completely unaware of the storm headed her way. I spotted Chris across the room, his smug demeanor grating on my nerves. He was laughing with a group, no doubt basking in the illusion of innocence. I could feel the anger bubbling inside me, but I knew I had to keep it together. As I moved through the crowd, I exchanged knowing glances with Ryan and the others, who were strategically placed around the venue. Everything was falling into place. It was almost time for the reveal. I could sense it. The moment of truth was near. The air was thick with anticipation as I stood in the corner of the grand ballroom, my heart pounding in rhythm with the live band playing in the background. Laughter and chatter surrounded me, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within. I glanced at Ryan and our friends, who were fanned out across the room, ready to play their parts. Tonight was the night I would finally reclaim my dignity. The spark ignites. As the night progressed, I watched Jessica flit from group to group, her laughter echoing off the ornate walls. She was radiant, completely oblivious to the tidal wave about to hit her. I could see Chris, leaning against the bar, a drink in hand, chatting with some acquaintances while shooting furtive glances at Jessica. The more I observed, the more my anger simmered. Then, it happened. The band began a slow song, and Jessica and Chris shared a moment, their chemistry palpable. I felt bile rise in my throat as I watched her lean in closer, whispering something that made him chuckle. How dare they? They were completely unfazed by the pain they had inflicted on me. I took a deep breath, ready to set my plan into motion. I signaled to Ryan, who nodded back, a sly grin on his face. It was time for the surprise guest, our ace in the hole. The band played a final note before the stage lights dimmed. Ryan, with his charismatic flair, grabbed the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice booming over the chatter, "we have a surprise for you tonight. Please welcome the amazing Jessica." The room fell silent, confusion rippling through the crowd. The lights focused on Jessica, who turned, her smile fading as the spotlight hit her. I stepped forward, fueled by a rush of adrenaline, heart racing. "Actually, Ryan, that's not quite accurate. What you meant to say is, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the woman who has been cheating on her husband with my best friend." The revelation. Gasps echoed through the room as the crowd turned to me, shock written on every face. Jessica's eyes widened, and for a moment, she looked like a deer caught in headlights. Chris's laughter died in his throat, replaced by a look of horror. "What are you talking about?" Jessica stammered, her confidence faltering. She glanced around, realizing the eyes of our friends and colleagues were now fixated on her. "Derek, stop this. This isn't the time." But I was just getting started. "Oh, but it is the time, Jessica. The time for everyone to see who you really are. You've been lying to me, lying to everyone, while you've been sneaking around with Chris. And look where your precious affair has led you." I pulled out Chris's phone, holding it high for everyone to see, the screen illuminated with the damning messages between them. "Shall I read some of these texts? How about this one? Derek suspects nothing. He's too busy with work to pay attention. Or this one, this plan is foolproof. How did it feel to deceive me for so long, knowing I trusted both of you?" The atmosphere in the room shifted, a mix of shock and outrage swirling around. Friends exchanged whispers, disbelief etched across their faces. Chaos unleashed. Jessica's composure shattered. "Derek, you're being ridiculous. This is insane." She stepped toward me, desperate to regain control, but I wouldn't let her. "And you thought you could keep this a secret forever? You thought I wouldn't find out?" My voice rose, echoing in the ballroom. "Let's hear from Chris, shall we? Let's see how he feels about this whole mess." I gestured toward Chris, who was still frozen in shock, his face pale. "What's wrong, buddy? Got your tongue?" He opened his mouth, trying to regain his footing. "Derek, listen. No, you listen. You've betrayed me in the worst way possible. You and Jessica deserve each other." I turned back to the crowd, my voice steady but laced with venom. "Here's the truth. Jessica and Chris have been having an affair behind my back. They thought I wouldn't find out, but they were dead wrong." The crowd erupted into a mixture of murmurs and gasps, the weight of the truth hitting them like a tidal wave. Friends I had known for years looked at me with disbelief. I could see whispers spreading like wildfire. The fallout. Jessica's face twisted in anger. "You've ruined everything, Derek. You're making a scene over nothing." "Nothing?" I barked back, my anger boiling over. "This is not nothing. You have destroyed our life together. How could you betray me like this?" The band had stopped playing, the silence amplifying the tension in the room. I could see my friends whispering, some visibly upset while others stared, their expressions a mix of pity and disbelief. Ryan had moved to the front of the crowd, reveling in the chaos I had created. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Ryan, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "Dude, you just lit the place on fire. This is epic." Before I could respond, Chris finally broke free from his shock. "Derek, you need to calm down. This isn't how you handle things." "Handle things? You're telling me how to handle things after you stabbed me in the back?" I couldn't hold back the bitterness in my voice. Jessica turned to Chris, desperation creeping into her tone. "You said you'd help me. You said we'd figure this out together." Chris's face paled as the reality of our situation sank in. He was trapped, caught in a web of his own lies. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I thought I could fix it before it blew up. The turning point. I stood there, breathing heavily, the weight of my actions hitting me. I had exposed them, but at what cost? The crowd was witnessing the destruction of two people they had once admired, and the shame washed over me. "Enough," I shouted, my voice slicing through the chaos. "You two have made your choices. I'm done with both of you." With that, I dropped Chris's phone, the screen shattering on the floor, the fragments of our friendship splintering into oblivion. I turned and walked toward the exit, feeling a mixture of triumph and sorrow. The night was still young, but I could feel the remnants of my old life slipping away with every step. The audience would have their gossip, their opinions, but I had finally broken free from the chains of betrayal. As I walked out of the gala, I felt a mix of adrenaline and despair swirling inside me. The echoes of shock and disbelief from my friends and colleagues haunted me. I had set out for revenge, but now that the dust was settling, I found myself grappling with the aftermath of my actions. The morning after, the next morning, I woke up in a haze, the events of the night replaying in my mind like a broken record. I could still hear Jessica's desperate pleas, see the shock on Chris's face, and feel the weight of everyone's eyes as I revealed the truth. I had exposed them both, but at what cost? As the sunlight filtered through the blinds, I picked up my phone, half expecting a flood of messages. I wasn't wrong. I had dozens of notifications, friends trying to reach out, colleagues expressing their support, and some even gossiping about what had happened. I took a deep breath and began reading through them, trying to process what had transpired. Ryan was the first to call. "Dude, that was insane. You took down a titan last night. Was it worth it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Hell yeah, you showed them. Jessica and Chris deserved every ounce of that humiliation." I appreciated Ryan's enthusiasm, but it felt hollow. I was left with a bittersweet taste. What about everyone else? They are talking. You'll be the subject of gossip for a while, but honestly, I think they'll rally around you. People hate cheaters. I sighed. I guess, but I still lost everything I thought I had. Facing the consequences. As the day wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness. I found myself scrolling through social media, and it didn't take long before the posts started rolling in. Some were supportive, applauding me for standing up for myself, while others painted me as the villain in a tragic love story. The betrayal and chaos had left a sour taste in the mouths of everyone involved. It wasn't long before I received a message from Jessica. "Derek, we need to talk. You've made a huge mistake." A part of me wanted to ignore it, to block her number and pretend she didn't exist. But another part craved closure, a chance to confront her about what she had done. I took a deep breath and typed back. "What's there to talk about? You made your choices. I don't owe you anything." She responded quickly, her tone shifting from anger to desperation. "I didn't think it would come to this. We were just having fun, but I never wanted to hurt you. I thought you were too busy with work to notice." Her words stung. "Too busy to notice?" I murmured to myself, bitterness washing over me. "You thought I wouldn't find out?" I put my phone down and stared at the ceiling. The reality was that Jessica had lived in a bubble of her own making, one where consequences didn't exist. I wasn't just a pawn in her game, I had been a husband, a partner, and she had taken that for granted. Unexpected alliances. A week passed, and I found myself navigating a whirlwind of emotions. I had lost friends, gained a reputation, and uncovered a shocking truth: I wasn't as alone as I thought. I received an unexpected call from Lila, a mutual friend I hadn't spoken to in years. She had always been an ally, and I had confided in her during my marriage. "Derek, I heard about what happened. I just wanted to check in on you," she said, her voice gentle. Her kindness hit me hard, and I felt a lump in my throat. "I appreciate it, Lila. It's been a rough few days. I know. I want to help you through this. There's a group of us who want to meet up, just to support you. You're not alone in this." Her offer surprised me, and I found myself nodding, even though she couldn't see me. Okay, I'd like that. Meeting with Lila and the others became a turning point. They rallied around me, offering support and understanding. We spent hours talking, laughing, and reminiscing about better times. It was a breath of fresh air, a reminder that life continued despite the chaos of the past. Personal growth. As the weeks rolled into months, I found myself on a path of personal growth. I started seeing a therapist, someone who could help me navigate my feelings of betrayal and loss. I began to unpack my pain, to explore the depths of my emotions, and to learn how to reclaim my life. Through therapy, I learned about the importance of self-care and the value of setting boundaries. I started exercising again, rediscovered hobbies I had neglected, and even ventured into the world of online dating. It was liberating, exhilarating to meet new people and forge connections without the weight of my past holding me down. I realized I was stronger than I had ever given myself credit for. The betrayal that once crushed me had ignited a fire within, pushing me to evolve into a better version of myself. I was determined to take charge of my narrative. The final confrontation. Then, one day, Jessica called again, wanting to meet. My heart raced at the thought. She wanted to talk. What could she possibly say that would change anything? We met at a cafe, and as I sat across from her, I noticed how different she looked, more subdued, as if the weight of guilt had taken its toll. "Derek, I'm sorry for everything," she began, her voice shaky. "I never meant to hurt you. I was caught up in a whirlwind, and I didn't think about the consequences." I studied her for a moment, searching for any remnants of the woman I once loved. "It's too late for apologies, Jessica. You made your choices, and they cost you everything. You can't rewrite history just because you feel guilty now." Her eyes glistened with tears. "I know, but I've realized that I was wrong. I've lost more than just you. I lost my integrity, my friendships. I thought I could have it all, but I was wrong. I don't know if I can ever forgive you," I replied, my voice steady. "Trust is a fragile thing, and you shattered it. I don't expect you to," she said, her voice small, "but I hope one day you can find peace." As she walked away, I felt a strange sense of relief wash over me. The final confrontation brought closure, not just to our relationship but to the chapter of my life that had been consumed by betrayal. I was ready to turn the page and embrace a new beginning. A new chapter. Months later, I found myself in a better place, emotionally, mentally, and even socially. I had new friends, new experiences, and a newfound sense of self-worth. The betrayal had cut deep, but it had also pushed me to grow in ways I never thought possible. I had transformed from the hurt husband into a man who was learning to love himself again. As I stood on the cusp of this new chapter, I couldn't help but smile at the journey ahead. I was no longer defined by the actions of others. I was the author of my own story, and I intended to write it well. In the end, it was not just about revenge or betrayal. It was about resilience, strength, and the unbreakable spirit of moving forward.